Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
We're here. We're here, all right.
You want to start over? Like, that was weird?
No, I mean, it's like you know, what a emotional roller coaster of a past several days here. Like all the way down in the dumps, and then today we just got to listen to the most batshit stuff that I've heard in a long time. So,
well, because this week is extra special in its bullshit. Look, we are not in a place. We are two but dumb men. if you know anything about this show, and yes, we have many opinions on what's going on, but we thought it would be very poignant to bring in a woman, and so we found one. Turns out us dorks, we know women. And so we brought in a really smart one to talk about her opinions. And I just assume righteous yelling about.
I mean, I can't yell that much, but like at this point, it's like it's. I got a lot of righteous yelling off my chest.
Okay.
Within the last few days, so at this point, it's turned into like the quiet mad. Which most people know is worse. So
yes, I'm married. Thank you. I definitely know. Quiet mad is definitely worse. That's the type you get stabbed with. Like, she hasn't said anything in 3 days. Yeah, well, you're in trouble, buddy. You're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will talk about the official decimation of Roe versus Wade. And that's not the only reason why Carrie is here, but there's an obvious reason why Carrie is here.
No, I mean, I wasn't going to let like two cisgendered men be the voices regarding Roe versus Wade.
Let me tell you about what these chicks are about. Like, wait, what?
I mean, plus it doesn't hurt that Jay and I already have 90 minutes of rage against this particular topic from a couple of weeks ago, and the opinion was pretty much what was leaked. So, you know, like it's still valid. Still valid.
Yeah.
Just, you want to go back and listen to 90 minutes of us getting super mad? Well, have at it. So yeah, we will get into Roe right off the top. But there is a lot to talk about, including a big chunk of this episode is going to be dedicated to the January 6th surprise motherfucker Stokes hearing. That they just dropped that fucking bomb one day before. And boy, was it worth it. Like I was slightly afraid, like, are they going too big in this announcement? Like, nah, they didn't. Nah, it was worth it. They 100% did not undersell it, which is great. And then we'll get into some other stuff. The one story we're not really going to talk about, I just kind of highlighted it on the docket because I think it's worth mentioning, but I don't really think we have time just because of the episode length to really get into it. Look, Epstein's Madam Ghislaine Maxwell, she got hit with 20 years today for sex trafficking. Doesn't feel like enough for me, frankly. Yeah. Like, it should have been one of those ridiculous verdicts of like if you died, they would bring you back to life and then put you in prison again.
Multiply that by 10.
Right, please. Like you should be in there for thousands of years. Just leave your corpse in a prison cell, as far as I'm concerned. But 20 years, she will die in prison, I'm sure, which is great. But like, we're not going to talk too much about it, just because that kind of came down, and that's pretty much all there is. It remains to be seen if anyone else will do any time, like the people she trafficked to, like. Mm-hmm. Any day now, guys. Do you want to talk about it? But, you know, it's America, so likely not. And they're rich. So that's just kind of the major story we're not going to talk about. So let's get right into it. Supreme Court officially sends Roe v. Wade back to the states. And I want to talk about Clarence Thomas's concurring opinions that he raised in this, which are pretty pretty awful, but not surprising. But not surprising, right? Like, we talked about this again in our 90-minute rant session a couple of weeks ago. But there is a little bit more to it, which is interesting. So Roe gets pushed back to the states. Obviously, red states or purple states that are run by like red governors are basically like, cool. If they don't already have trigger laws, let's already like get moving on banning abortion, you know, after so many weeks, if not outright, you know, no matter what. And and everybody is justifiably upset and angry. People who, have a conscience and give a shit about people's actual personal freedoms. And look, I'm not surprised. Like, I'm not like, my anger isn't new. You know what I mean? Like, I saw someone say that the leak kind of, the sort of the purpose of the leak, some people say, well, they were leaked so they could kind of like force certain justices, like, you can't get out of it now, motherfucker. It's out there. But I think there's also another part that just kind of got people used to the idea of this coming. So they got all their rage out earlier so that because if you had dropped this, I feel like, into the public without anyone seeing it coming, I think we would have seen like massive violence. Like there was some against pro-choice.
Yeah, against protesters, not perpetrated by, but
right. I think you would have just seen like a far worse reaction. So I think it was kind of like leading a horse kind of thing, which is kind of disgusting in its own right. So, Carrie, we have not heard from you. What are your thoughts on this, in general and specifically?
I can't remember before, what was it, Friday that this happened? Thursday, Friday? I can't remember the previous time that I got so mad that I cried because my body didn't really know how else to process it. Right. And it sucks that I'm 32 years old and now I have less rights than my mom did when she was my age. Like, I feel like that should be the other way around because my mom's in her 70s. But I have less rights in this country than my mom did, and that's fucked up. I hate that I have to sit here and be glad that I already have an IUD because Clarence Thomas has already said that they're coming after contraception next,
Right.
I hate that I have to sit here and take some degree of stock in the fact that I live in Maryland, which, codified protections for abortion and reproductive health into law earlier this year because we have a state house full of Democrats that was just like, we are pushing this shit through whether Hogan wants it or not. Like, he can veto this shit all he wants and we're still going to put it through because we have a supermajority. I hate that I have to sit here and be thankful that my husband got snipped. Like, it sucks. It sucks. And I'm in like the best possible position in so much that like I am comfortably middle class and I'm white and I live in a state that has protections for abortion and related reproductive health rights because they're not just coming just for abortion, they're coming for all of it. So yeah, it fucking sucks, dude. And the one thing I do really want to stress is like, this is more than just a women's issue. This is an AFAB, assigned female at birth issue. Like, we have to talk about the trans men who will be facing this sort of thing. We have to talk about the non-binary folks who will be dealing with this on top of everything else that community already has to deal with as well. So this is beyond women's health. This is a human health right that is now being infringed upon. And yeah, dude, I'm pretty hacked off about it. And like, what can I do beyond put forth an effort to raise funds for defense funds and reproductive health access funds and whatnot in parts of this country where these trigger laws immediately took place? And it's like, cool, as soon as they can detect a heartbeat, like, that's it, you can't have an abortion now, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's to me it's bizarre, right? It's not something that is surprising to me considering the leaked opinion, right? It's not surprising to me when the conservatives got a 6-3 court. Like, it wasn't surprising to me. the second I saw that Trump won and had full control of the government and would have 4 years with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, multiple cancer, survivor, and in her 80s, I was like, we're fucked. Like, if we get through this, it will be by the skin of our teeth. And we did not, right? Luck is not a strategy. And unfortunately, we paid for that in spades. So I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised then. I'm not surprised now. But I guess I'm annoyed that people are surprised. You know what I mean? Like I think that's what's bothering me now. It's people are just like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, dude, we've been screaming about this for 6 fucking years. Like, you should be afraid. Like, this is a big fucking deal. Take it seriously. I have to say, I'm still like in watching how this goes down, like on social media. It's maddening to me. Like I see these like bullshit Superman stories of like how we get through this, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work. That's not how government works. That's not how government works, and that's not how government works. Like, and it's fucking maddening because nobody seems to want to tell the truth, right? The people in authority don't want to seem to tell people on the left the truth, which is we're fucked for a while, and guess what? You're gonna have to just fucking vote your way out of this. That's it. There is no magical solution, and I think people are terrified to just deal with that. There just isn't one.
I am a little sympathetic to the one aspect that's being pointed out by the more progressive side of the party is that our current leaders seem caught a little flat-footed by this, which is also kind of crazy to me.
Right. Why are they surprised either? Like, it's ridiculous.
Now that being said, I think the one surprising aspect of this was Thomas calling out like Obergefell and Griswold and by name in the decision. And basically him and Alito just throwing up middle fingers to stare decisis and being like, we don't give a shit what the fuck was decided before. And not just in this case either.
In any case.
Like we're going to talk about this Kavanaugh religious case, how they're just, throwing out the First Amendment essentially, and how we've interpreted the First Amendment for pretty much the entire time that we've been a country. And it's just interesting because in his concurrence, John Roberts was like, yo, we're probably pushing this a little too far the way we're doing this right now. He's like, look, I want to get rid of Roe too, but y'all are wilding out here, and this is going to come back and bite us in the ass. Because Roberts has always been the guy that's kind of picked at the foundation, and then eventually, like, over the course of many years and over the course of many decisions, then the foundation just crumbles alongside of it. He's not throwing, he's not launching a cruise missile at these establishment, things that we've done, and that's essentially what Thomas and Alito are out here doing. Weirdly, like Kavanaugh and Roberts are like almost like moderating voices. Like Kavanaugh has been weirdly like not insane.
He's been far more moderate than I was anticipating him being.
Yeah.
Like he's been super conservative, but he's wanted to not like swing a fucking sledgehammer and everything, which, we did not think was going to be the case.
Right. And look, I don't know if that, I have my suspicions as to what that is, which Brad is, I think it's because of something you said, you and I have talked about, which is you're getting to a point now. I think we're here where people will just start ignoring the Supreme Court. Yeah. Because if they start ignoring precedent, which, spoiler alert, they already fucking have, and especially, like, it's bad enough in the Roe case, and I don't mean to, like, smash that down. Like, I don't. I think it's incredibly significant. But the other cases on basically the separation of church and state is fundamental to the Constitution. It's in the First Amendment. It's in the Bill of Rights. And they're just like, nah, fuck that. So it's like, well, and you're not even talking about unenumerated rights. You're talking about quite literally the enumerated right. And for some reason, they feel like that's at play. That's up for grabs too.
And Alito's concurrence is very explicit in that. He basically says, yeah, we can't bother ourselves to give a shit how the public's going to react to stuff. Like, we're just going to decide how we want to. But when you come out and you say that, as if you don't exist in the public, as if you don't exist like within the sphere of the body politic, you are opening the door for people or states or other things like that to be like, oh, you don't give a shit about how this is going to affect us? Well, then we're just not going to listen to you, because you guys are, 9 people in robes on a hill put there, not elected, not representative of us. So fuck you.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. Like, it's fine. So I do want to, before we move on, I forgot to mention this to the two of you. Brad, you may have already seen this. I sent this to you earlier this week. Look, there are a few of you people, white people, that I fuck with, right? Public figures of white people. I fuck with the two of you. You guys are cool, right? But there are a few white people I fuck with, right? But one of them, who I think I refer to as the GOAT of white people, I think she is the very best. She's the very best example of an ally, is Jane Elliott. Jane Elliott is basically kind of like an expert on calling white people out on racism. Like, that's kind of her thing, right? But in educating white people about racism, right? And Jane Elliott, there's a clip I want to play, is talking about basically what the push to get rid of abortion rights in this country is all about. And look, if you think that this conversation on this national conversation on abortion is steeped in anything other than what every major problem in America is steeped in, you're fucking wrong, man. It has so much to do with racism. So I want to play this clip of Jane Elliott just doing what she does best, which is getting right to the fucking point. So here you go.
Right now, white people are really frightened. If you don't understand the destruction of Planned Parenthood offices, and you don't understand the wall that we're going to build on the southern border of the United States, you haven't read the book The Birth Dearth by Ben Wattenberg. Ben Wattenberg was a brilliant Jewish man who was a member of the American Enterprise Institute, and he wrote a book, the first paragraph of which says, "The main problem confronting the United States today is there aren't enough white babies being born in this country." He was an advisor to presidents of the United States. He wrote the book in 1987. He says if we don't change this and change it rapidly, white people will lose their numerical majority in this country, and this will no longer be a white man's land. Now, I'm not misrepresenting this. I'm telling you almost exactly what he says. He says there are 3 things we can do to solve this. Number 1, we could pay women to have babies, as they have been doing in Western European nations for years. Then he says, and these are his words, not mine, unfortunately, we would have to pay women of all colors to have babies, so we don't want to do that. He says the second thing we could do is increase the number of legal immigrants that are allowed into this country every year. Then once again, he says, unfortunately, the vast majority of those wanting to come to this country today are people of color, so we don't want to do that. The third thing he says, and women had better pay attention to this, 60% of the fetuses that are aborted every year are white. If we could keep that 60% alive, that would solve our birth dearth. Does that sound like racism to you? And if it doesn't, I want to know why it doesn't.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, Jane Elliott.
Yeah.
She knows what the fuck she's talking about, man. Like,
Yeah.
look, I would argue that is the number one issue, right? Is this idea of we need to make more white babies. Like, that is a big part of it. There's another part to it, which is the religious aspect.
Mm-hmm.
They want a theocracy. They want a full-on theocracy, and boy, do we get to hit on that topic multiple angles this week. Holy shit. Because they're masked the fuck off at this point, right? They don't care. Clarence Thomas, and this is my thing, and I'm not trying to speak for anybody. A lot of people don't know this, but Clarence Thomas and Antonin Scalia, may he rest in piss, fuck that guy. Forever. Those two guys are not just Catholic. They're Opus Dei Catholics, which is like the most hardcore of hardcore fucking Catholics, dude.
Jay. We've all seen the Da Vinci Code.
Yes, I know you have. I know. I know. Thank you very much.
They are like the worst.
Super crazy, dude. Super crazy,
yeah.
right? But they quite literally run a lot of power in DC. They absolutely do. Look, and this is not just some like, oh, you know, anti-religious bullshit. No, dude, they quite literally are associated with right-wing authoritarian governments around the world. Like, that's their thing, is pushing this Christian theocracy bullshit, like as like in a major regime, like in like 1975, 78, in the Franco authoritarian regime in Spain. Like, quite literally. Like, these guys want a theocracy. They want to control women. They want to control minorities. They want white people to be in charge. Never forget that, yes, it is a theocracy, but a lot of theocracy and a lot of religion was fucking born and bred, steeped, deep fried, boiled, marinated, whatever the fuck you want to use, in racism. Okay, that's what they used to control black people. That's why they justified slavery through it. All of that shit. These guys want that. I'm not saying they want to have slavery back, but I'm sure they wouldn't be that mad if it did come back. Clarence, you get to be the exception. You're fine, right? But the reality is that's what they want. So this idea of controlling women's bodies is step one. Right? Yeah. There's a reason why Clarence Thomas feels so goddamn comfortable in saying what he said about going after Obergefell, going after Lawrence versus Texas. Like, he's fine with that because it's like, dude, my religion says that you guys don't get to manage your fucking sexual health.
Yeah.
You don't get to have sex without consequences.
Notably an exception on his liberal decision hit list, Loving versus Virginia.
Yeah, how about that?
Funny how that works.
Right. Yeah. Like, dude, look, we'll give it up, okay? Why don't you throw that back to the States? Just so, look, if you want to divorce that psycho that you're married to, I get it. Don't make us suffer through this, okay? Don't make us suffer through it. You fucking coward. Oh, well, hey, man, what can you do? That's the law. Sorry. We gotta go. So, I am disgusted by the fact that people don't notice that. That is what it is, right? It's not any other, like, they're just doing it to hurt us. Like, there was, like, a story about, like, Trump pushed for this because Obama made fun of him at the fucking correspondence dinner. No, dude, Republicans have been pushing for this for 50 years.
Yeah, literally the moment that it happened. I mean, and ultimately it is also squarely at the feet of the Democratic Party because the Democrats knew that the specter of the threat of this being overturned was more valuable to them politically because they could go up and they could say, I need your money and I need your votes because if you don't vote for me, then they're going to get rid of this. And it was always, that was always the threat because it was more valuable to them on the campaign trail, the threat of this being overturned, than any political points that they would have gained by simply codifying it years ago.
Well,
I don't agree with that necessarily.
I don't either. I see your point. I see your point. The only thing I would say is, from that perspective, the Republicans are also in that same boat, right? Because there have been a bunch of like comments that have come out from like the internal like Republican stock, and they're like, "Oh shit, we caught the car. We shouldn't have done that," because like they make way more money and get people way more amped up to be like, hey, we could do it. Hey, we might be able to do it. So I agree with you on a sort of a fundamental level, but I also where I disagree, and then I'll pass it to Brad, where I personally disagree is this decision on Roe wouldn't have mattered if Roe was codified. I'm starting to see people start to like kind of realize that, especially with the prayer in school shit. It's like, oh, if it's codified or if it's in the Constitution, they don't really give a shit. They just don't care. So it's like, I don't even understand. That's one of those, like, when I was talking earlier about like bullshit Superman stories of like, how do we fix this? I don't think codifying it is how you fix it. I just generally don't believe that. I think you need a constitutional amendment. Like, you quite literally do. Even that's fucking hard, and even that may not stop them. That's the fucking problem.
I think codifying it on a federal level would fix a lot. I think you have to write that law in a very careful fashion to not have, the court just blow it up shortly thereafter. But they're also a little bit more handcuffed by stuff like it not being
Rules.
explicitly enumerated in the Constitution is kind of a double-edged sword in that way, is that they're kind of handcuffed as to what they can strike down. I just don't think that it was realistic to codify it before, because again, we take for granted, because of how shockingly a lot of like moderates in the Democratic Party have shifted to progressive positions in the past 8 years, I would say. But like everyone, people are railing on Obama for like, oh, when you had a supermajority, you should have prioritized this and got this done. He didn't have 60 votes to enshrine abortion as a law.
No.
Back then, even with 60 Democrats, he didn't have 60 votes, because we had enough blue dog Democrats and enough Democrats from relatively red states that weren't on board.
You don't have it now.
Yeah.
By the way, like even taking away those two dickbags, Sinema and Joe Manchin, you don't have it now. Like, you think all of the Democrats would be on board with that? Fuck no. They're just not saying anything.
We're not cutting out the filibuster for it, at least. Like Maggie Hassan was out there recently saying, oh, like, we should just focus on getting more pro-life or pro-choice Democrats in the Senate. Like when they asked her, like, would you carve out the filibuster if you had 50 votes to do it? I think that if you put, if you put the rubber on the road, you'll get it done. If you do have 50 people that would be willing to do it, I think a Chris Coons is not going to stand in the way of abortion becoming law. Like, he's not brave enough to do that.
But he's not going to jump out there. He's not going to jump out there and be like, let's do it tomorrow.
Right.
No. Fuck no.
But I also don't think that we really had an opportunity to make it a law. Ever, really. I mean, with like the gumption just wasn't there from the majority of the party.
Look, and I would argue another part, right? Because I think the democratic process, small d democratic process, requires not just the politicians. I mean, they're just representing us. It also has a lot to do with us. I would argue there was no fucking push for this. There wasn't. And look, that's not to say that people didn't want it done. That's not what I mean. Of course people wanted it done, right? People wanted it done for fucking decades. But I'm talking about what the priorities are. Any administration, you get one, maybe if you're lucky. In an extreme case, if you're lucky, you get two big pieces of legislation that you can get off before your first midterms. That's it. You come in, Republican or Democrat, you come in and you go, oh shit, we got a mandate, like we got one more senator than the other guys. We got a mandate, and we got the House and we got the Senate. What big thing are people screaming about that they want to get done? Let's get that shit done as close to perfect as we can. Obama burned his on the ACA. That's what everyone wanted him to do. Let's be honest. That's what they did. When Trump came in, tax cuts. What the fuck did he do? That's it. All the other shit was like little bullshit, like chipping away at like EOs and things like that. That's all the shit he did in like fundamentally fucking up government, like from the executive perspective. But passing laws, one big thing, right? So before Obama, it was the war. That was the thing. We got to get out of the war. It was a number one priority. And I'm talking about for Democrats. Get out of the war, right? And then it was get healthcare done. Now, for all of the we should have codified Roe, again, don't disagree with that, just talking about priority. The last year, all I've been hearing about is fucking student loans. That's what's been the big priority for the Democratic Party. So it's like, and I'm, look, again, not mad at that. Like, I got student loans, I'm not mad at it. But when we're talking about using your political gumption coming in, like, what's the thing that you got to get done? It's never been codifying, bro. Let's all be honest about who we are as voters, right? Like we have to do that. That doesn't mean that I don't want it done. I think it should have been done. But when Obama came out and said, I'm gonna codify this, like I think he said in his first week or something like that, he probably had to look at his priorities and was like, do you want to burn all of that on codifying Roe? Or do you, while you, for 4 years, maybe 8 years, you might get a couple more Supreme Court justices. Do you want to worry about codifying Roe? Or do you want to worry about getting the ACA done? And the thing is, we as voters wanted the ACA. We did. And look, it is what it is. Like, it sucks, but I don't like new people, like, this was our top priority. Like, nah, it wasn't. It just wasn't. It wasn't. And again, that doesn't mean in 2024 it can't be. You can say, hey, motherfucker, if you get back in, this is the reason. Cool. All right. Then push for that shit and push to get senators in who are willing to codify Roe. I got zero issues with that. If that has to be the number one issue for 2024, rock and roll. I got no problem with that. And look, it seems to be a pretty motivating fucking topic. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that. It seems to be driving people to the polls. 68% of women are like, yeah, fuck that ruling. Dude,
Yeah.
that's Democrats and Republicans, right? So if women are that on board, yeah, rock and roll.
The idea of overturning Roe v. Wade was wildly unpopular in the U.S.
Over
regardless
70%.
of where people live. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Over 70%.
people did not want this to happen, and they did it anyway.
Right.
Turns out bodily autonomy outweighs political persuasion. Who knew?
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
Before we move on, I have two more thoughts on this that I sort of want to get out.
Give me three. Go.
Okay, I'll come up with a third, I'm sure. One, I have been seeing many good-natured and well-intentioned men talk about vasectomies in the wake of this. And I am politely requesting these men to, if they're going to talk about doing this as a response, to at least make sure that what they're saying is correct. Because I'm seeing, like, I swear to God, I've seen a half dozen dudes on my social timeline. These are people who I've known for years and years be like, oh, I'm just going to get a vasectomy because I can just get it reversed. And sweetheart, that is not how vasectomies work.
Yeah, that's not 100%, dude.
That's not, I appreciate the energy. I appreciate the thought. Please don't spread bad health information on social media. And also, not like, if you want to do something immediately actionable in response to Roe v. Wade and you are convinced that a vasectomy is something for you, please go ahead and do that. But also, like, lift up the voices of the people most impacted by this. And if you have the means, please donate to one of the, I would say, ideally one of the local level, state level funds in areas that are most impacted by this. But there's something slightly tone deaf about men talking about going out and getting vasectomies in the wake of Roe v. Wade, because boy howdy does that still leave the reproductive decision in the hands of cis men.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I can't.
Nor does it fix all the other problems that are inherent with this ruling.
Yeah, it does not.
No,
it simply does not.
If it's for you, please, by all means, go for it. If you very sincerely don't want kids, please, by all means, go for it. But please just don't say shit on social media that's incorrect. And that goes for things beyond vasectomies as well, obviously.
Yeah, in general, just shut up.
Yes, in general, just shut up. But like the other thing is, like, at the end of the day, like, what this means is more AFAB individuals, women, non-binary people, trans men, are going to die because outlawing abortion doesn't stop abortion. It means that more people will die trying to get abortions, and it means that more people will probably be killed at the hands of their domestic partners, because a lot of pregnant women die in abusive relationships at the hands of men who don't want children. And at the end of the day, forced birth is torture. And everything else that we're talking about is details. Forced birth is torture, period. We can talk about how fucked up the American child welfare system and child support and foster care systems and how all of that shit is fundamentally broken and does not offer any sort of safety or financial security to families or to vulnerable kids. We can talk about that the views on what actually constitutes the beginning of life and medical viability in a fetus, that's changing. Sure, you can talk about that. You can talk about how our country's fucked up patchwork approach to healthcare across the board has so far left many many, many people without reliable access to healthcare services, including contraception or even just going to a physical hospital, which results in really high rates of pregnancy-related mortality in these areas even before they overturned Roe v. Wade. We can talk about how kids get pregnant. We can talk about how rape survivors get pregnant. We can talk about people whose gender identity would make becoming pregnant a wildly gruesome body horror experience for them. And all of that can be true. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because forced birth is torture.
I don't disagree. I think it's a perfect point. I was going to make one, but I think I'm going to leave it there. I think it's excellent.
Cool.
I will save my point for the second hour. I have a poignant story. It is not a joke. It's a very serious story. So if you're a premium listener,
I am also asking that the cis men who listen to this podcast, please give the space to the people in your life who are going to be impacted most by this. Please allow them to be angry without taking offense. I've already seen some folks be like, oh, well, I tried to be nice about this and I got snapped at. And it's like, yeah, dude, because the person who you were talking to just had their rights stripped away from them. We're not going to be fucking nice to you. Get over yourself. If you want to be a good ally, sometimes you just got to step back and let someone be angry.
Yeah, like that's okay. Like
it ain't about you.
It ain't about you, right? Like it's not. I think that's exactly right. Look, this topic. I think people like I've seen people like, oh, well, this is a fucking woman's problem or whatever. Like, and it is obviously it is a direct women's issue, right? Like, or people who have female reproductive organs. Let's just say that, right? I want to cover all bases. It is fundamentally that, but it's also a human issue, like because we're talking about regulating married couples who may want to have abortions, right? Because they can't afford a kid or some other reason. Look. 80% of the people listening to this show and 95% of the people who would never listen to the show, you're all oops babies. Let's knock it off, right? Like, let's not pretend. You're 15 years younger than your goddamn sibling. Relax, okay? Like, somebody made a mistake, and that's okay. And some people don't want to have to continue those pregnancies, and that's their business, right? This entire bullshit of like, we're giving this back. I saw Liz Cheney, somehow a hero and a villain in the same day. Congratulations. Please just leave the party. They hate you. They do. They hate you. Just use your evil powers for good.
She could leave the party, but she's still going to have shitty views.
She's still a Cheney, man. God damn it. But she came out today, and she tweeted out today. She was like, well, I'm glad that, Roe was kicked back to the states and giving people giving people back the power to the states and to the people to make their choices. I'm like, you didn't give people the power to make choices. You gave a local government the power to make choices. You stripped people of the power to make choices. Pro-choice is the choice of people who want personal responsibility. That's actually what the fucking choice is. That's why the word choice is in the title. Yours is not a choice. Like, it is not a choice. You are saying, like Carrie said, they're making basically state-sponsored brood mares, right? Like, get the fuck out of here. It's not okay. Just like Jane Elliott said, this is designed to make more white babies. That's all it is. They don't give a fuck about black and brown kids. They're going to keep them in fucking poverty, right? A surefire. Look, one of the, an interesting sort of statistic about abortion is it's like, in states that it was legalized, like fully, like just go and do your thing. Poor people were pulling themselves out of poverty because it's real hard to pull yourself out of poverty and then getting loaded with more kids. When you can go, you know what, this is not a thing I'm ready for right now. I get to make that decision when I'm ready to make that decision. Yeah. Guess what? People can then go to college, get that job that they want, do their thing, and then maybe have kids down the road if they so decide. And they didn't like that shit. They don't like the fact that you get to make your own choices. Never forget that this idea of like the government shouldn't be, sanctioning this. Okay, the state is run by a government. Like, it's such bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah. Stop trying to pretend like state government isn't real government. It's government too, dude. Those are the same people who make you pay in New York 20 extra cents for a plastic bottle or some shit. That's government. Like, that's the same thing. Local government has more effect on your daily life than the federal government does. Make no mistake about that. Like, that's why we tell people when they're like, I don't vote. Like, you don't vote for the judges in your fucking city? Are you crazy? These are the same assholes who'll sentence you to fucking prison on some bullshit. Like, come on, man. That's just, like, not voting locally is far worse because those people directly affect your life. You need to know who the dog catcher is in your town. Okay. So like, vote for that shit. So moving on from there, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this surprise Jan 6 committee meeting. Ooh, boy. I mean,
that was wild. Shit's wild, man.
I was watching this live while I was working, and I was just like trying to like tear my head back to my work laptop. I'm like, but he threw his food against the wall. Must turn back ketchup. Ketchup is on the wall. Like, what are we doing? This is the best. This might be the best hearing so far because this has got like the most salacious shit in it, right? Yeah. Like this is like the shit you read in a book and you're like, oh damn, like let me highlight that to read that later, right? Like
this has like the most explicitly unhinged behavior being described. I think
it's a scandal episode. Like that's what it feels like. Like the other hearings were like the West Wing, and you're like, well, that's not okay. That's not okay. And this one was like, this hearing is brought to you by Shonda Rhimes. Let's get fucking crazy, right? It's like awesome.
And like one thing I learned from this is that like it's kind of fucked up. Like when you're at a job, right, and you give your 2 weeks notice, and then they tell you like half a weekend, they're like, yeah, you actually just don't have to show up, and you're like, well, that fucking sucks because I'm not getting paid now for the next week and a half. So that's shitty. But on the other hand, Mark Meadows is why some jobs do that, is because Mark Meadows was completely checked out by the time we got to January 6th.
Sorry, bro, I'm tweeting. My bad.
like Mark, violence is erupting at the Capitol. Yeah, that fucking sucks. I knew that was happening.
They're saying that's a real shame.
Yeah, they're saying hang Mike Pence, like they're saying hang Mike Pence. Well, Trump said he deserves it, so what are you gonna do?
What do you want me to do about it?
Like, bro, you got a 5-letter word that starts with J. I'm playing wordscapes, bro. I don't got shit for that. Yeah, I mean, so all right, I got kind of a list of things here. That revelations. Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani. So first off, like, we had no idea what this was going to be about. They announced this a day before, and they're like, surprise, motherfucker, we're doing a hearing. Like, get ready, 1 o'clock. Like, oh, shit. Like, all right. Like, new information. So everybody's, like, speculating, like, is it from the documentary footage, which I can't wait for that shit to come out, because that's going to be horrible for them. But they were like, surprise, today, turns out ex-Mark Meadows aide Cassidy Hutchinson is going to testify in front of the committee. Now, she had done interviews for the committee on tape, which they played a number of those clips. But she was also going to give her like live responses to questions. And boy, did she. So the first thing she talks about is on January 2nd, 4 days before the Capitol riot, Rudy Giuliani was at the White House. And they made a very concerted effort to point out where her office was in comparison to the Oval Office. They're like, here's a 3D design. Well, she is literally 10 seconds away.
Because they knew, and this happened. Trump's out here on Truth Social, like, basically giving her, like, the, low-level coffee girl, like, fucking treatment. Like, I didn't know her. I don't remember her. Like, she wasn't around. Like, I'm just like, bro, like, sorry, that doesn't work that way.
Nah, dude.
Here's literal pictures of you two, like, in the same area talking to each other, like, all this shit.
Right.
He basically posted that gif of Mariah Carey being like, I don't know her.
I don't know her. Never heard of her. That shit was fucking hilarious. And it was funny because they're like, here's a picture of you when you work for Steve Scalise. Here's a picture of you with Mark Meadows. It was just like, she's a Republican. She is involved. She was in the room where it happened, kind of thing, right? And so the first thing is, Giuliani's there on the 2nd, hanging out in the White House, talking to Trump. She happens to walk Giuliani out to his car. This is her words, not mine. And Giuliani's like, "Hey, you excited for the 6th?" And she's like, "The fuck are you talking about?" Like, dude, what is that to say? That's weird. And he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna be wild or crazy or whatever." And he was like, "Go ask Mark. He knows." And so she goes to her boss, Mark Meadows, who is Trump's chief of staff at the time. And she's like, "What is Rudy talking about?" And his quote is something to the effect of, things are going to likely get very, very bad. Quote, things could get real bad on January 6th, right? They were well aware of the potential about violence on January 6th. 100% aware. Again, like, put a pin in that, right? Because we come back to that, where she then later says that she overheard the phrase Proud Boys and Oath Keepers multiple times anytime Giuliani was around having meetings with Meadows and Trump and those guys. So again, this is days and weeks prior to January 6th.
This is why you shouldn't day drink.
Well, or do, because it really helps us to get that information out. So they were planning with these guys. Why would you know about anything about the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers on the run up to January 6th? Right? Because they said, "Oh, it just got out of hand." It didn't just get out of hand. That is clear. Like, that is coming into view quite easily, that this was not something getting out of hand as much as it was they had planned this chaos, and they thought in the chaos they would be able to make something happen. That is obvious. Look, it's only a matter of time for one of these fucking idiot Proud Boys or Oath Keeper guys just like, "You know what? Fuck this. Here's everything that happened." And I think it's probably going to be the Oath Keepers first, because those guys are looking at like serious fucking time, like serious time. And look, do you really give a fuck? Like, do you really give a fuck? Like, I feel like those guys are more about saving their ass at the end of the day, when faced with like, "Hey, you're going to die in prison with a 50-year jail sentence," or you could talk and get like 25, right? And probably still die. But I don't care. That sounds great. So when told on January 6th that Mr. Trump supporters had brought guns, knives, and other weapons with them, Mark Meadows barely looked up from his phone playing wordscapes and asked, quote, "Anything else?" I don't give a shit. Which is amazing.
Very huge Diamond Joe Quimby, like, it's been brought to my attention that many of you are stroking guns out in the audience. So I will turn the floor over to you.
Quimby. What an idiot. But they had flagpoles that they had sharpened the ends of. They had flagpoles that they had attached knives to. They had knives. Some of them who entered the sort of diocese where Trump was giving the speech. The Secret Service had taken a number of weapons away from these people, including handguns and brass knuckles. One, if you bring a handgun, should you still be allowed to go into the speech? I'd be like, "Cool, you have a handgun. You're under arrest."
But here's the thing: is that the money quote from all this is that Trump was backstage at the speech,
right?
And there was a lot of people outside of the grounds. He's like, "Why are these people coming in?" They're like, "Well, they have guns and they don't want to turn them over to the Secret Service." And Trump was really literally like, "Get rid of the metal detectors." He's like, "I don't care if they have weapons. They're not here to hurt me."
Bingo. That's the line. Yeah. That to me, besides the story in the Beast, that to me, because that story is fucking crazy. Again, Deshonda Rhimes write this episode, like it's a bit nuts.
It's a little too on the nose.
It's a little too on the fucking nose. Like, guys, no one's gonna believe this story. these characters aren't believable at all. But that line to me is incredibly important. They're not here to hurt me. Well, then that would imply that you are well aware that they want to hurt other people in politics.
Yeah.
What are we having a conversation about? Go to prison, dude. Go to
These
prison.
guys show up with the entire weapon arsenal from the video game River City Ransom for the Nintendo Entertainment System. and Trump is just like, you know what? It's okay. They're not here to hurt me. Oh man, I broke Jay.
You did. I snorted, so I wanted to make sure I was like, still camera ready. I was like, had to slide out for a second. Holy shit. River City Ransom. That's funny. That's good. It's not
and
untrue.
Accurate.
Yeah, it's not untrue. It's fucking dead on.
Someone had a flagpole, someone had brass knuckles, someone had a lead pipe, someone had a tire.
Right, like a random bottle of beer. Like
it's like they were just literally, creating the fucking alley scene from Anchorman, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
some guy marched into the Capitol with a trident. Like, what the fuck was going on there?
The net. Like, let's throw it on that guy. But some of the guys had AR-15s.
Mm-hmm.
Quite literally had AR-15s. Like, they played over the during the hearing, they played Secret Service tapes of them being like, guy in green fatigue standing over by the Gadsden fucking flag, of course. We just saw the muzzle of an AR-15 under his jacket. This guy has a fucking handgun. This guy has a fucking handgun. This guy in the trees has an AR-15. Like, they were concerned about, like, those guys having the high ground. Like, if shit popped off and they've got weapons, right?
And to be clear, they were worried about, like, protecting Trump and his people. Like, that's what they were calling it.
Right,
They weren't even
exactly.
thinking about the fucking Capitol.
Right. So this idea, and there are quite literally conservatives who have commented on our YouTube page of like, this wasn't an insurrection. They didn't even have weapons. Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. Like, here is definitive proof. Do you think that the Secret Service is making this up?
Imagine how fucking insane you had to be to believe that. It like, with all the stuff that we know.
Or video. Like, what are you talking? Like, they beat a guy and he died the next day from his injuries. They beat him to death.
Your whole fucking brand is like, we fucking love fucking guns. Literally fucking guns. We want to fuck all the guns. And then you're not going to bring them to like the fucking main event that you've been building up towards for several weeks.
Right. This is the thing you wanted to take the government over on. Like, yeah. Like, what are you talking about? So yeah, that line, they aren't here to hurt me, is a super important line. And look, spoiler alert, that's going to get thrown in his face multiple times. Like, that is as iconic of a line of a guilty person as when the president does it, it's not illegal. Like it will go down in infamy. That will be a part of that douchebag's Wikipedia page. Like, and then he went to jail because he said this. Like,
and Nixon was already not the president when he said
right.
When he said
right.
that.
He was just fucking freestyling in that. I think that's in the Frost Nixon fucking conversation. Which, by the way, if you've never seen that movie, you should. It's amazing. Yeah. So then. Yeah, so Mr. Trump was angry at the Secret Service for not allowing them to bring more weapons in. Cool. The director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, told the White House that the event could be dangerous for the president's legacy. Quite literally, Cassie Hutchinson's, I don't think it was Pat Cipollone. I think it was the other guy she mentioned, John something. I can't remember. Or Tony something. Was like,
it was the deputy chief of staff. I can't remember his last name, but Tony was his first name. Yes.
Right. He was like, yo, if you allow this asshole to go to the Capitol, we are going to get nailed with all sorts of crimes.
Oh, like, that was Cipollone. Cipollone was like, if he goes to the Capitol, like, we're going to get charged with every crime in the book.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So, okay, like, I'm going to need Pat Cipollone to be at one of these hearings. Because, like, he gets mentioned a lot, and he, like, his viewpoint mirrors hers. Like a lot of it is like, oh, don't do that. We should probably not do that. We're gonna go to jail for that. And then they're like, nah, fuck it, let's do it. So then, look, I will give like the funny statement, like, you gotta give him credit. Like, nah, you don't gotta. But Trump is I guess in this one moment, a man of his word. I'm gonna go down to the Capitol with you. And people are just like, no, you're not. But like, nah, he really thought he was. He really thought he was, dude.
He tried.
He fucking tried. They were like, all right, get in
He
the
said,
car.
I'm the fucking president. Take me to the Capitol. And he got in the limo.
And they were like, nah.
And they were like, no, we're not doing that. And then he grabbed the steering wheel.
Like a crazy person. By the way.
Crazy person.
By the way, they should have just, like, can you imagine if, like, on January 6th,
I would have been like, you do it.
Yeah, you got it, bro. Like, don't worry about it. Like, can you imagine driving that? You see the beast fucking burling towards the Capitol, and it just flips because he grabs the steering wheel. You're just like,
I would have brake checked him. Let him go fly through the windshield.
Bam.
Like, yeah, you want to reach up for the back seat like a fucking toddler and grab the wheel from me?
All right,
like,
buddy.
Oops.
Yeah, that's what. I'm trained for this shit. I'm trained to fight terrorists. I like you, hamburger boy. Like, I got it. Like, you calm down. So yeah, he grabbed the steering wheel, tried to grab the steering wheel of the car while it's driving, because he was insistent that they go to the Capitol. Which, by the way, that's how I know this motherfucker doesn't drive. What are you doing? You grab the steering wheel? They're driving. Like, dude, like that is a thing you don't do. But then his security chief was in the back seat with him, had to pull him off of this guy as he's trying to grab the steering wheel, which is fucking, again, bonkers. He pulls him off, and Trump lunges at him and tries to fucking choke him. Which, by the way, I don't think that's all of that story. I don't think that's all I said. Trump tried to choke him and then just let go. Nah, fuck that. No. Trump got put in his fucking place. Because there's no way that Secret Service guys would be like, oh, okay, Mr. President. No.
I don't know. They're supposed to die for him. I'm surprised he wasn't like, no. Like, make sure you get the carotid artery. Like, that's how you have to do it.
Choke yourself with my hand. God damn it. Lean forward. Full Metal Jacket reference there for folks. But no, I think that guy probably pushed Trump, or in my headcanon, he punched Trump in the face. Like that's my headcanon. I'm just like, that feels good. But yeah, so apparently Trump, the big man, takes on the Secret Service like main guy. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all, dude. I'm not buying that shit at all. He talks tough. I'm sure he got put right in his fucking place. But he says none of it's true.
They just like pushed him over like the big, dumb, unbalanced oaf he is.
He's like, my lord, yes!
Right back into the back of the car.
Dude, can you imagine how fucking disheveled he looked when he got out of the beast after that fucking ordeal? Hair flopping everywhere. MAGA hat to the side. But that's a crazy story, right? Like, yo, you tried to like fight the guys in your detail because he wanted to go. So look,
I guess you fight the guys who are specifically paid to keep you alive.
Yeah, because they didn't take you to the Capitol not for some bullshit reason. They're like, yo, it's not secure. You don't know who the fuck is up there.
I gotta say, on the
it could have been Antifa.
On the list of presidents who beat up or who tried to beat up his own bodyguards, like Trump, I would have had like near the very bottom. Like I would have expected like Lyndon Johnson to fight a Secret Service agent. 100%. Like Teddy Roosevelt will fight a Secret Service agent.
Teddy Roosevelt Teddy Roosevelt never even had Secret Service. He didn't need it.
Teddy got shot in the middle of a fucking speech and just kept going.
Yeah, he's like, oh, fuck. Anyway, as I was saying, you fucking coward. Like, Jesus, dude. You want to take a rest? No, fuck that.
Fucking sucks it out of the wound, spits it on the ground.
He just pulls it out and hits the guy with it. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
In the front row. But yeah, like, it's a bizarre story, but it also is sort of emblematic of how much, like, how not presidential he is, right? Like fundamentally, he's not presidential.
I mean, it's that, but it's also like emblematic of just how little control he had over anything.
Yeah.
Like he didn't,
including himself.
Yeah, he couldn't control his own fucking emotions long enough to have a pleasant limo ride to a secure facility while the Capitol was being taken over by rioters. Like,
yeah. And by the way,
fucking buffoon.
And by the way, I'd like to just also point out, dude, I fucking told you. What did I fucking say a number of months ago? Why the fuck was that guy not put in a goddamn bunker when this shit was going off? Why? Because he was directly fucking involved. This guy wanted to go down there and lead the fucking team in. He was involved. So the assholes who commented on our YouTube channel, no, they didn't do it because it wasn't a big deal. No, asshole, they didn't let him go. They didn't let him go there because it was a fucking issue. It wasn't safe. And the reason why he wasn't in a bunker, because he just said to them fucking 20 minutes ago, they're not here to hurt me. Yeah. So get the fuck out of here. That's why he wasn't in a bunker. We were right about that. I fucking told you, of course. You're not going to tell me they're going to attack a federal building 5 fucking minutes from your house and just be like, nah, you're cool. Just stay in the living room. The fuck? Yo, come on. It's the biggest dereliction of duty of all time for the Secret Service. But they already tried to stop the guy from trying to be an insurrectionist. By the way, if he had gone, holy shit, dude. What the fuck? That's crazy. Like, I don't even know what could have possibly happened in that situation.
I don't either, because the only reason he would have gone is to intimidate the people in his party, like, directly.
But, like, if they're literally trying to storm the building and the because at this point, the current president of the United States is like, heave ho, he's right behind you with the battering ram, right? In his fucking mind. Instead, he's in a golf cart, like, you get him, right?
Yeah, but to say, in his mind, this was his fucking, Washington crossing the Delaware moment, but it would have been much less impressive, I'm sure.
Standing on the hood of a golf cart, go! Like an asshole. But
side personal note, just for me about January 6th at large. Fun fact: I was driving from my house to my friend's house in New York City that day. So as all of this was unfolding, I was just having cute little drive up 95, listening to my music, no problems. And then like I get out of the car and I like look at Twitter and I'm like, what the fuck? What just happened?
What happened to my precious country? Well, an idiot. An idiot happened. Yeah, I am amazed. I am amazed that people thought that, like, oh no, he wasn't involved. It was just something that got out of control. No, dude. This motherfucker wanted to lead. Like, I mean, but just like in context of that day, where would he have been when that nutcase got murdered? Right? When she was like, Trump flag! And they was like, yeah, bam. And they fucking shot her, right? Ashley Babbitt, right? Where would he have been? While they're trying to secure the senators. They don't know that the fucking president is there, dude. He could have been killed. He could have been shot. Like, easily, in any situation, someone could have been like, yo, that's not really Donald Trump. That's an impersonator. He's not with us. And shot him. Like, what the fuck, dude? You don't know what the fuck is going on. You think those psychos would realize it? That's why, like, when people were like, oh, they were going to get into the Capitol and weren't going to mess with Republican senators and congressmen. You think they know all of the Republican members of the House? They know the major people. Oh, that's Ted Cruz. But, like, who the fuck is that guy? Kill that guy. Who the fuck is that? They don't know, dude. In the middle of that shit, you think they would have been like, oh, Trump's our fucking guy. No, he would have gotten trampled or killed or fucking God knows what. So it's crazy. And again, you're talking about two different teams, right? Like there was talk that they were getting ready to send in basically a military clearing team, which would have been like, hey, if you ain't supposed to be here, you're fucking dead. Like, imagine if the fucking current president is involved in that shit. Yeah. What the fuck, man? What the fuck? So this idea of him not being connected to this, and it's all just happenstance, that story in the fucking Bees isn't just funny. It tells you everything about his state of mind that day. Just let me go in. This motherfucker's going to talk. This motherfucker's going to do a Braveheart speech and then storm the Capitol. No, dude. Like, that's bonkers. That is a bonkers perspective, but apparently this dumb motherfucker thought so. Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.